building blocks. Okay, go ahead.
If I may, China and some other countries have been particularly active, seen as maybe taking advantage of the U.S. during this process, during this period. China particularly active in the South China Sea. You've got a carrier down, obviously. What's your message to some of these adversaries and competitors?
Well, look, the way I view it is this. China has taken advantage of the United States for 30 years, okay? I mentioned the World Trade Organization. China has taken advantage of us through that and using rules that are unfair to the United States, and they should have never been allowed, this should have never been allowed to happen. When China joined and was allowed to join under those circumstances, the World Trade Organization, that was a very bad day for the United States because they had rules and regulations that were far different and far easier than our rules and regulations. Plus, they took advantage of them down to the last, and you know China and you study China, and you know what I mean. They took advantage of them like very few people would even think to take advantage of them. And again, they are considered, right, a developing nation. We are not considered a developing nation. They're given advantages. Okay. For many years, China has ripped off the United States. And then I came along. And right now, as you know, China's paying 25%, and we've taken in billions and billions and billions of dollars in tariffs from China. And I know a lot of the people kept saying, oh, no, we're paying. Well, we're not paying. You know, countries are different. Not every country is China. But China would devalue their currency, and they'd also pour out money. And they essentially were paying most of those tariffs, not us. And as you know, we've taken in tens of billions of dollars. They targeted our farmers. But we took in so much money that I was able to give back. One year it was 12 billion, one year it was 16 billion. I was able to give back our farmers the money that they were targeted, hurt. China bought 12 billion and bought 16 billion. 1 year 12, 1 year 16. I was able to give them back the 12 and then give them back to 16, the farmers. And they weren't targeted, and they're all in business. Now we're doing it because they got targeted in a different way. Now I'm going to be very interested to see. So we signed a deal with China, and under that deal, they're supposed to buy substantially in excess of $200 billion from us. That's not only farm product, it's manufacturing product, it's lots of different things. They're going to buy a lot. I just want to see if they live up to that deal. I know President Xi, I would say he would live up to the deal. But remember this. I never took off the tariff. It's still 25%. That's how big. 25% of $250 billion. So for the first time, and you saw also, now again, I'm going before the virus hit, because that's sort of like, that's like, let's start all over again. Okay? I can't tell you that yet, because that chapter hasn't been written yet. But go up a few weeks ago, the deficit with the United States and China was coming way down. Nobody's seen that. Nobody's ever seen that before. But the deficit has come way down. So now we start a new chapter. And I can only tell you, if a smart person is standing where I'm standing, we're going to do very well with China. Okay? And I think it's, I have to also say this. I think our relationship and having the relationship I have with China is a good thing. But for the first time, we're benefiting instead of being the sucker that could, you know, that got taken advantage for years. Nobody. You know, I said to China, how did this ever happen? I got to know him very well. I said to him, representatives of China at the top level, you know who I'm talking about. I say, how did this ever happen? They looked at me and they said, but nobody ever called us. We didn't have a deal. It's not like we had a bad deal. We had worse. We didn't have any deal at all. So they just took advantage. Think of it, $500 billion a year deficit. Not 500 million's a lot of money, right? It's not, everyone thinks I made a mistake when I say 500 trillion. No, you mean 500 million. No, I said $500 billion a year deficit with China for a long time. But it was 200, it was 300, it was 400, it was 500, 556 billion, 507. $500 billion plus a year deficit with China. Now I'm charging them tariffs. And you know, it's very interesting. A lot of people that don't want to do that, they all agreed because China has taken advantage of this country like nobody has ever taken. We have built China with the money we gave them. Now, I give them a lot of credit, okay? I give them a lot of credit. They did it. But you know what? We made it a hell of a lot easier. We gave them a fortune. Go ahead. How about you in the back?